Cambodian Prime Minister tested positive for COVID after hosting all the world leaders in Cambodia's capital for last 2 days. Now has pulled out of G20. This is just the beginning. Somebody else will also test positive. It's going to be a mess now. Let's make it more complex before I give a very simple solution. First of all, today is Monday still, Monday night in US, and he tested positive on Monday night in Indonesia, Bali. Typically they test on the morning. I don't know why he tested at night. Then it says that it was confirmed by a doctor in Indonesia on Tuesday morning. You don't need a doctor to confirm COVID positive test result. The test results are really simple. Even a politician can get it. It's yes or no. You're positive or negative. I don't know whether he was symptomatic and that's why he tested on Monday night. If he was symptomatic, it's a totally different ball game. But whatever, now he has pulled out. And needless to say, just a day or two prior, he met all the world leaders. Now, before I get into that, I want to say something as a person of Indian origin. I don't want to say offended. People get offended very easily these days. Let's say it annoyed me. New York Times appropriately reports it as that the Cambodian Prime Minister over the weekend met President Biden, Justin Trudeau, and Prime Minister Modi of India. In whichever order, I'm fine. ABC News reports it as Cambodian Prime Minister, apart from Biden, met Japanese Prime Minister, Canadian Prime Minister, Russian Foreign Secretary, Chinese Prime Minister. I didn't even know China has a post like Prime Minister, and several others. So ABC News is putting India's Prime Minister, India which is such an emerging global power, and they are putting India's Prime Minister as among several others. That annoyed me. But forget that. Now we also met Cambodian Prime Minister met our president, Biden. Now they're saying that per CDC rules, if we follow CDC rules, President Biden was not considered a close contact. I think that's just nonsense. I don't think these rules make much sense. But if we are following the rules, if we are looking at the rules, the close contact is defined as 15-minute time period within 24 hours. It could be continuous or it could be in batches of 5 or whatever. It's the cumulative 15 minutes. And President Biden had spent more than half an hour easily on Saturday and Sunday. And then now pictures will start emerging, like whether President Biden coughed during one thing, how close they were sitting. Now the pictures and the videos will start getting leaked. And it is also interesting that President Biden did take the Omicron adjusted booster on October 25th. But as current CDC guidelines for non-healthcare professionals doesn't include anything about the Omicron booster, means these guidelines were written in December 2021, almost a year ago. We are using a test that was devised for ancestral strain about 3 years ago, guidelines 1 year ago. Virus is changing daily, but nothing else is changing. Now, if we are looking into who needs to isolate and quarantine, let's first do some basic concepts. Not many people, unfortunately, still don't know it, and they don't need to know it. It's like we are past that. A person who tests positive for COVID isolates. A person who comes in contact with somebody who is COVID positive quarantines. So, COVID positive patient is not going to isolate, and a person who comes in contact with COVID patient till he or she tests positive is not going to isolate. They are going to quarantine. Now, per the vaccination rules, you do not need to quarantine even if you come into a close contact with somebody with COVID, but you have to wear a tight fitting mask. Then you have to look at what kind of mask, how was it worn, how tight fit. I don't think they work anymore, but those are the rule, how tight fitting it was. Then you also look at the not only the vaccination schedule, you have to look at how far away are they from their vaccine. European Union has different rules. They are 1 year from booster. In US, if you're 6 months away from your second dose of the mRNA vaccine, or if you're 2 months away from your single dose of a J&J vaccine, but if you're boosted, you're not supposed to quarantine. I'm not President Biden has taken both the boosters and the Omicron booster. I'm not sure whether Prime Minister Modi has, I don't remember reading it, whether he has taken the precaution dose or the booster dose. Then, at least by the CDC rules, he wouldn't have to quarantine, but it would be recommended by the CDC that everybody wears a tight fitting mask, and nobody is wearing it. Now, when we are looking at the contact, how these people, you have to look at like what constitutes a close contact, how close these people were to each other, whether it is 1 meter or 2 meters. World Health Organization has a different definition. Japan has a different definition. So the Japanese Prime Minister follows the rules in Cambodia, the World Health Organization, or the rules in Japan. They also have to look at whether the two people who met, whether both of them or one of them was wearing a mask. What was the ventilation in the room? Whether the contact was front facing or it was side facing. Is it just getting too complicated and just getting too out of hand? And I'm just starting. The rules are different for healthcare workers. Then on top of that, the testing strategy comes. Because if you're in quarantine, can you get out of quarantine by testing? Means if you are boosted, you really don't need to quarantine, but they recommend that you do a test. And then how to break isolation early with testing. It's a whole mess. I have a simple idea. All these G20, the world leaders are together. I mean, the buck stops there. They can take any decision and stick to it. And this is a decision that actually involves them. I mean, they are involved in it. It is not like some meaningless platitude. We are all in this together. That's the last sentence before all these leaders leave us in a lurch. So this involves them personally. I have a simple idea. I've been saying it for more than a year. If you are symptomatic, don't travel. If you are asymptomatic, don't test. Means why test? These people are taken several vaccines, they are boosted. They have protection against serious disease. My idea is simple. If somebody who's high risk has symptoms, wants to test, he or she should isolate, test, and talk to their own doctor. Not declare, not announce, not this, follow that guidelines. This is just too crazy. And I think it's going on for years. We need to move on. And G20 is an ideal occasion. It's a summit. All world leaders are together. So they can decide that just do away with all these rules. Just forget this and then move on. We won't be any worse off. And that's what most people are thinking now. So, my plea to all the leaders of the world in Bali is lead, do something, Dr. Ravi Godse.